Yeah, they do that, and then they eat them like it's. And then they cook them for you. Yeah. Happy New Year. Everything.
Morning. Happy New Year, everybody. It being January 13th, hopefully this will be the last time I have to say Happy New Year, but thanks for being here this morning. Excited to be in the chair's seat for my first meeting here in January. We have a lot on our plate today, a lot to cover, and a lot of speakers here as well. So a couple things. Hope that everybody had a restful, enjoyable holiday with friends and family, and that 2026 is off to a strong start. I'm going to be brief here for my intro, since we have some guests with us, including two of our county board members. Our chair for 2026, Matt DeFerente, thank you so much for being here today. And our EDC liaison and county board member, JD Spain, we know is on the way, but stuck in not in an accident, but around one, so he'll be here shortly. Before we get to the 2026 State of the County, however, I would like to open up to the commissioners for discussion or feedback on our December meeting, which featured a panel of tech entrepreneurs and investors led by Commissioner Kaylee McKenna. Thank you very much for your hard work and putting your time into this. I'm happy to kick it off by just stating a couple things that resonated with me, and I hope they would with the rest of us here at Economic Development Commission. One of the panelists, Bibi, I believe it was, said this region as the unique ecosystem and framed it the nexus of government, industry, and academia, which I thought was an interesting way of looking at it. While another panelist, Ashley, added onto the thought and particularly viewed that access to talent and advanced degrees, the amount of folks in this region and particularly in the county with advanced degrees, was really a strategic advantage for locating business here. I think she had mentioned that she actually moved here from El Segundo, California. Some of the things she said that were still, my head's still spinning. I think she used the phrase off-world or off-earth manufacturing, which safe to say her SAT score was a lot higher than mine. So just opening up to the commission, any other thoughts, comments, questions before we ask for approval on December minutes? Okay. Well, I will ask for a first.
So moved.
Okay, a second? Second. Okay. We'll let the minutes be shown that we approve the December minutes. Okay, so let's move into the state of the county. We've had a lot of panels over the last few months, but today we're going to have a number of speakers and laying out priorities, respective priorities between the board and AED and EDC. So a lot to get through. And why don't we start, Matt, with you, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you very much, Nick. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. Not every morning has an 8 o'clock start time for me, but I'm very pleased to be with you, and JD perfectly coming in on cue. And so I'll kick it off and then share with JD and leave it to you, Nick, and the commission to sort of think it through. If you are the 6 people or so who already have watched the speeches from a week ago Monday, bear with me for a brief repeat. Joy cometh in the morning is part of it's a psalm. I don't go to church regularly, but it is a psalm. It's also a key piece of many sermons that a lot of different pastors, including Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., used in a knock at midnight. And I think it's important to think about that from an economic standpoint, because the broader context of who Arlington is economically is sort of pressured and pinched by the broader political context that we're living in. And if you listen to all of us on the county board, we are concerned about our budget for this year, and we're concerned about the long tail of this set of administration policies. We have such a large federal workforce and so many in the, 8 minutes I was here before, already Bill mentioned that some federal contractors are asking him for advice, and he's, in a lot of cases, there's not much to do to really help there. So I think that it's important to, economically, it's important to have optimism. And in the midst of all these, our concerns, remember the structural fundamentals of Arlington, which we have an extraordinarily talented workforce, and we have so many great businesses that make us a great community. So that's kind of, I just wanted to kind of adapt what I said a week ago Monday with my my address for the beginning of the new year to our economy. Let's see, I think most in the room will know that at the one meeting in July, we brought down the commercial office vacancy rate 1% by approving a number, two, I believe, large adaptive reuse policies to move from office to residential. CMRI is Commercial Market Resiliency Initiative is a great piece of work that the AED has worked on with so well with the county manager, really taking a leadership role. And also the board has been fully aligned. I'll also say that as I listened to everyone's remarks, all five of us last week, everyone was focused on the economic moment we're in and the growth that we need and the adapting that we need. So I think you have a strong board as far as economic development. I can't believe that I'm the most experienced on the board. I don't know quite how that happened, but it doesn't mean that I'm the most experienced professionally. I loved my career so far, but I also, my colleagues bring varied experience that I think is going to be really helpful. For our community as a whole and at large, we do face continued challenges with office and work from home that are still part of a structural adjustment, really, that has come over years. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of strength. We have such a strong hospitality and tourist industry, and those fundamentals, even with a difficult sort of start or last 6 months or so, in some ways are still strong. So we have sectors that we need to focus on that are opportunities for growth. I would say that the most in the room will be aware of the long meeting we had to approve the Amazon agreement, and it perhaps is more pivotal now than ever because our economy would have been further balanced really on the federal workforce and on contracting. So, we have national security as a focus. We have technology. We have our higher ed focus. We have at each of the submarkets that are really the largest, we have positive investments that lead to optimism. We have Fuse at Mason Square. We have redevelopment in Roslyn that is very encouraging. We have growth in moving to residential significantly in National Landing. We have positive signs, Clarendon, and my liaison focus for a lot of the last 7 years has been Ballston, and I'm leaning in and looking forward to re-enlivening sort of life well done with growing residential as well as our office fundamentals. So we got a lot positive, and I'm looking forward to the year. And I think I've covered kind of most of the big pieces. We have one of our biggest threats, I would say, has been Metro over the last few years. I've gotten the glory of being an alternate member on Metro's board now, and we are headed on a trajectory to long-term sustainably fund Metro, I would say, within the next 6 months. which is huge. And we have a general manager there who's done an outstanding job, in my belief. We are thinking regionally. I'm the chair of the Northern Virginia Regional Commission, and there's an economic focus there. We have more to do to understand and respond in real time to the challenges our federal government is facing. I would also just say that, I think one of the hallmarks as I've been to this meeting over the years has been a focus on inclusive economic growth that reflects our values. And so that is super important to me. As we look at the budget, we will be, my priorities, as I laid them out in order, and have remained the same, which is stabilizing our economy and positioning us for growth. That has to be our focus this year. And then the second in our budget is serving and valuing those most in need and the most vulnerable. And that is certainly this week, at least as strongly as every week after the death of Renee Good, that is our immigrant community. And it is also the 23,000 Arlingtonians who live on less than $45,000 a year for their household. So our budget has to reflect that. And I think that the economic multiplier benefits of helping those most in need and those slightly up, and as you move into the middle class, the evidence is pretty strong that it's those individuals that spend all that they have, and that leads to growth. So we have to have an economy that reflects our ideals. And that's also reflective of the truth that Mario Cuomo said a long time ago, that the best government program is a job. And in a lot of ways, that's true. It's not just about your economic growth. It's also certainly about your purpose, as we all know. So that's a few more, maybe more than a few thoughts from me. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm happy to serve as the left sidekick to the right hand of JD Spain, and to introduce him. And I will say that it's been great to see you join the board and lead with us, and bring your energy and your trips to Ruthie's all day and everything else. But I'm so grateful, honestly, because the first 6 months of being on the board, I posted about almost everything I did publicly, and my metabolism for that is a little reduced, but it is super important for us to communicate and for you to see what we're doing in the community. And so JD is bringing that, as well as his work ethic and relentlessness, and also leadership to us. So over to you, JD.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just start with failure is not an option. Right? I think I said that the other day, and excuse me, I don't have any COVID. I took a test last night. It's just a bug that's going around everyone. But first, let me also say Happy New Year and good morning to everyone. It is definitely a pleasure and an honor to be with you for at least one more year. And I'm thankful that my colleagues on the board unanimously decided to put me out here one more year to be your liaison. Let me just say a few things. And for those of you that did get the opportunity to see the organizational meeting, I kind of laid out what my priorities are as one member of a co-equal body of representatives here in Arlington. This is going to be another challenging year, right? We're about to go into our really tight budget cycle. But when we think about economic development, and I'm gonna try not to repeat as much as what our chair said, I think it's critically important that, we remain laser focused on, all things economic, our businesses, our, potential, working with our academic institutions, and ensuring that they can continue to thrive here in Arlington, and keep it one of the best places to do business here in Arlington. Let me say a few things that also come to mind, like, instability, in my opinion, as we can look at the very, the 30,000-foot level of our government down to the lower level. You've seen some things lately on the news about, let's say, what's happening at the Fed, right? The chairman of the Fed came out Friday, had a press conference, which was really unprecedented, right? And for you to believe that that does not like correlate and directly impact us on what's going on at that level from our highest echelon of government, you're naive. I think we have to be mindful of what's going on in federal government, but also what's happening, what's going to be happening here in Richmond. And I'm hopeful with the new administration here, with the governor elect and the team, and a large majority of progressive-minded thinkers in the General Assembly, that we're going to be able to move the needle a good bit on a number of issues in our regional and state type collaborations. So my areas of focus this year broadly were keyed around affordability. Affordability is a theme, quite honestly, that you've heard echoed around the nation and in the Commonwealth. We can have the best and brightest folks here. We can have outstanding businesses, but let's keep it honest. People are finding it hard here in this county of 243,000 residents to live. They're struggling, but honestly, they are struggling with these rising costs that we have going on. So we need to address affordability, I believe, in a very holistic approach. And we will be looking, at least I will be laser focused as well on that, to ensure that, we talk about housing, wages, education, healthcare, economic opportunity. Broadly, all those areas are kind of attended to. So you're going to have my committed and decisive leadership on that area as we look at sustained investment in the upcoming budget cycle to ensure that no one is left behind. Again, I don't want to make this about my, repeating comments of my organizational meeting. Let's just say, fiscal and responsibility and our values here in Arlington, where we talk about an inclusive and vibrant community where everyone feels heard and respected, is something that's also important to me. 1 year under my belt, it's been a hell of a ride on the county board. 17 years of being, almost 18, February will be 18 years that I've been here. And having traveled the world and worked abroad and worked on the Hill and been everywhere under the sun, I think I love this job. I love what I do. We are a very highly educated community, and I respect everyone, right? And what's beautiful about this is that we, the dynamics of, it may be like a very liberal community, but keep in mind, we have some folks here that really speak their mind and want to be heard, and those folks need to be listened to as well. Even the folks you don't agree with, right? And I think as a leader, I kind of bring that to the table, because heretofore, you would, I saw where people did not feel heard, right? And I think as we're going to move together as a community, to whether that's our small mom and pop business or small minority owned or women owned business that's along any corridor, making sure that their voices resonate at the highest echelon, even here at economic development. This is not about our Fortune 500 companies all the time, right? Our lower scale academic institutions. They need to be heard. So we start talking about placemaking, signing, all this stuff that's coming down the pipe, right? We're going to make sure that we are fighting for the little people in the room. And so with that being said, I'm going to give a few shout outs. First, word came to me and the entire team on the board. I shared this, that our good friend, a person who has done so much amazing work in this community, Matt Weinstein, let's give him a round of applause. He is going to be moving on to work in the upcoming administration as the director of administration. I believe that's the title, right? Deputy Director of Administration. Yeah. So with that being said, this is his last Economic Development Committee meeting, and Matt, publicly, and I've already sent something out to your email. I just want to thank you for your zeal, your passion, your volunteerism, your critical thinking ability, and your sense of leading with empathy over the years. It hasn't just been here. You and I've worked on some work groups before, and I've known since day one that you've been a person of reason and one that is highly respected in this community. So thank you for your service to the Economic Development Commission. Thank you for the service to this community. Thank you for the service that you're going to do representing the governor-elect team and all the citizens of the Commonwealth. So come round of applause again for that. We're gonna miss you. So that's gonna means we're gonna have some vacancies. Nick, I think that means we have 2 vacancies, baby. So I will be vetting, taking applications. We already have some applications in the queue, but if you know someone that is, interested in being part of economic development, the commission, please let them know. There will be, they can apply now, and all folks will be considered. I want to also take opportunity to congratulate our new chair. I did say something a little bit last month. Nick, you have your hands full, buddy. You and I met a couple times, and I think your vision for this year and beyond with economic development as a sole entity outside of AED per se, right? Your direction and your thoughts about what you want us to be involved in is I'm fully supportive of that. And I'll say that publicly and I'll say it also in private. Nick has some goals as he talks about, really, I'm just gonna be honest with you, putting y'all to work. Okay. One thing I found about being on commissions you can go to these commissions, it's early in the morning, you sit down, you can listen, you can get, I call it death by PowerPoint. But, what's the tangible? What is it that we're doing, right? What is the, what's the work plan? What are you going to do here as a body to convey a message to the county board and to AED about the direction we need to be going? We did some great work for CMRI over the years, but what's next? And so Nick has some ideas, and I would ask respectfully that each of you really get on board, find ways, carve out time to be part of this process, because again, failure will not be an option when it comes to economic development. Economic development, my friends, is almost like the heart of what we do here in Arlington as a community, how we attract businesses, how businesses thrive, all that plays into revenue, right? It's not just about the Pentagon and national security. I know some folks are concerned about all that, but there's a whole host of other things we could be doing. I mentioned earlier about our academic institutions. We have some key partners here in the region, George Mason, V Tech, Marymount, Nova. I want to see some more, collaboration and working together in peace and harmony with those entities. Because they are the hubs, right, to bring the new skill sets of workers into Arlington. So let's work with them. And lastly, as I close out, I won't come to as many meetings this year as I did last year. Okay, I'll kind of let y'all, do your work. I have the pleasure, Mr. Chair. I don't know how this happened. I have 25 commissions and/or advisory boards that I've been a liaison to. I'm the liaison to this year. Just 25, y'all. Just 25. So this is one, all right? But, as a social butterfly, I love it. And Kate, you're a prize. And you are in the position of acting director. And you and I, we've had a few conversations as of late. And I know you're right. You're a team player and you're there for us. You're highly respected, you're highly regarded, and I wish you well. I know you have some remarks coming up, but thank you for stepping up to be acting director and Ryan's departure. And I look forward to working with you as well in peace and in harmony, and whatever I can do to help support you and convey that to the full team of the county board, let me know. And you should know that we have your back. Okay? All right, with that being said, Mr. Chair, we can talk all day, but I think you may want to open it up to some questions for us, the chair here. And look, sorry for my tardiness. I was coming up Glebe and there's an accident right down the corner here. And I don't know, there's all kind of fire trucks. Sometimes I'm a little tardy. I hate being late because in the Marine Corps, they say if you're not 15 minutes early, you are late. And I'm used to being early. Matt, you beat me here today, Mr. Chair. But what I want to say about our chair, you give people the flowers while they're here. I've known Matt for a long time, y'all. Long before, and I know Matt Weinstein as well, but our chair, I've known him. It's the first day he decided to run for election. And I remember quite being down at Drew Elementary School with a sign and a Matt DeFranchi shirt on, holding up a sign, trying to get people to put him in office. And I will tell you this, even though Matt and I have not always seen eye to eye, but I tell you what we've come to do over the past couple of years. We've come to learn each other, right? Our strengths, our weaknesses, our lived experience, and we value each other in a very genuine way, right? So our conversations aren't per se, we find ways to compromise. And that's all I ask for you and all I ask for people that I engage with. Find a way, there is a place in conversations I think people can agree. So we're at probably the 95% agreeable rate now that we, on things that used to be 75. But I am so honored and thankful that he's in the position right now as our chair. He's battle tested. We're in some very difficult times, and I have the utmost confidence that over the next 12 months, he'll be able to get us through any storm. He was here, he was in the chair during COVID. But thank you, Matt, for your leadership. Thank you to your family, Brooke, and the two young ones, especially the new one, for allowing you to do this, because I know it's tough, especially with a young one. And you two, I have your back on the county board, okay?
Thank you.
All right, over to you, Nathan.
Okay, well, thank you both, Matt and JD, for your thoughts and for being here. Greatly appreciated for your service. Yeah, I really like the way you closed there. Being in the commercial real estate world, the last, half decade here has been extremely difficult, probably harder here than anywhere in the country. So, collaboration and working together, thinking critically and being open to new ideas is always very important, and probably more than ever. So with that, I'm sure folks have questions on the floor here. So why don't we go through some of that, and then we'll move over to Kate. Paula?
I'll give a little context before the question. Last week, George Mason, in partnership with Northern Virginia Tech Council, was at the Consumer Electronics Show. Great showing, huge draw. Couldn't believe how busy we were the entire time of people interested in Northern Virginia, all the activities, not realizing how many tech assets are here and how fast it's been growing over the last few years. Also, kind of a recognition that just in some of the presentations that we saw, it's pretty clear that there are some industries that are going to be decimated. The two that don't affect us as much that I saw is just as examples, Hollywood is going to be very, very decimated, just in the jobs that will be eliminated through that.
Because of AI or?
Yeah, because everything from stunt people, writers, set designers, a lot of jobs, and we're not talking about like the highest level jobs, although those will be impacted too, but all the way down the food chain. Similarly, manufacturing, we saw a presentation by John Deere, and we could see just through digital twinning the number of engineering jobs that will be eliminated, as an example. Here, we've already seen lawyers and how they're being affected by AI. So my question is, how are we thinking about the jobs that are here, how they'll be affected, and how we turn this big transition into opportunities where the region and Arlington in particular will win in this very rapidly shifting landscape. I've never seen anything like it before. I've been in economic development a long time. This is huge.
Great. It's a good question, and not fully formed. I will say this, I do think the regional commission, the Northern Virginia Regional Commission, is going through strategic planning, and AI is going to be a key piece to that. And I think that's a good way, on pure economic development, there is the collaboration of the 5 localities into a regional economic development entity that has come. But I think there's space for each local jurisdiction. And this is an instance, there are many, where Kate and staff's leadership, there's such a value to knowing what you don't know. And there's a significant piece of, I don't know what you know, sitting at Fuse and working to build and bring companies in. I did get a tour a couple of weeks ago, and I'm eager for the restaurant, but that's separate from. So I think that the regional group can help I think that there's a whole bunch of work we need to do. And, there's been much written of the AI investment bubble or whether there is an investment bubble. The venture capital and private sector investment is always ahead of government. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be running to catch up as fast as we can and adding value in the way that governments can. But I think the regional group needs to think about that. We're going to have some strategic planning sessions to sort of work on that more. It's also critical to get sticky examples. One of my best friends in Arlington, his daughter was having trouble with an infection, and the dentist identified it incorrectly. And he took a picture, put it on his AI, and he diagnosed it better than she did, and kept insisting, you've got to treat her this way. And she got better a lot faster because of his knowledge of AI. So that example, Hollywood, I do think that there's a significant, having been a lawyer, you need a license and you need that expertise, but there's also significant tasks where, sorting through a room full of boxes of documents is an example, but we got work to do to think on it and figure on it. And I don't think the work is done. I think JD and Kate, you may have additional pieces, but I think there's a lot that I don't know. I don't know probably a quarter of what you do in this area, but I'm glad you asked the question because it certainly is important that we really grapple with it more. We are leaning into it in some ways in our county board office and with our county manager, but that's not systematized change as is reflected in manufacturing example that you had.
So I'll just quickly add, to answer your question, that's why we have y'all here. To really brainstorm and think about how, when we talk about investment in the energy tech ecosystem, looking at the art of the possible and what's next for us. What do we need to be prepared for as a county? And to our workforce, more importantly, in the evolution of AI, which is it's happening fast, right? I saw a lot of this in corporate last year before I left. How we nurture these, our new entrepreneurs coming into that want to call Arlington home. In national security, of course, is a very fast-growing pace environment, but there are alternatives as well to national security. So. Tim, you brought up some things at a couple of meetings, and Kaylee, I raised those two names because those appointees that I've made. I hope that this committee, Nick, can take on some of the questions, question like what Paula just presented, and what do we need to be thinking about? I know when we talk about investment in AED. We need to make sure we have the money and the support at the county level to take on different programs and an initiative. So I think for me, you'll have that. It's just like Matt, I don't know all the specifics, but it goes back to the regional collaboration. We have to be working together, not just regionally, but also at the state level to figure out what's next. Because to give you an example, last night I was just messing around on my phone, and there was a elected leader here locally who wanted me to ask me to do something. And I was playing around on my phone with AI real quick, changed something, and they were like, "How did you do that? What's going on?" I mean, look, it's here. I mean, that's very low-hanging fruit stuff. But when we talk about jobs and we talk about businesses and we talk about Hollywood and how things are, people, right, are being replaced by in the AI movement, we saw this coming many years ago. How many of you recall the first movie of The Matrix? Raise your hand. Okay. If you go back and watch that movie, and I think that was 1991 or 2, they talked about AI then in that movie. It was a little, it's weird, but like this is this thought is not new. So we have to prepare folks for what's happening at a fast pace rate. How do we attract and bring in these new businesses again, right? What is the next, the generation to come? What does that workforce look like here in Arlington, right? People and alongside AI, right? We can't, AI is not going anywhere. We have to use AI, right, as a tool altogether. So that's what I'll just leave with. We'll look at closely in the budget, I think, how we invest here, and probably with some more resources and at least where we're at last year, I think, to ensure that you have the tools to be successful economic development locally.
And Kate might update. I mean, I will say, I want to make sure that we acknowledge that in both our answers, there's some meat on the bones of those answers. We should acknowledge Holly Hartel and our tech department have been leaders for a long, long time. And so their thinking is well advanced from ours. And I'm not sure that, at least for my part, my answer encapsulated all we're doing, because you try to keep the main things, it is a challenge to stay on top of all the big trends, but over to you.
Yeah, I think the slide deck won't kill you with PowerPoint today, but it's going to hit on some of our priorities. And I think at the end of the day, we have to remain a place where entrepreneurs can thrive. And as much as we can seed that kind of transformation and the creation of the next thing, that's what we can do. And we can partner with George Mason on that and others here in the room. So I'll speak a little bit to some of those more specific initiatives in the innovation economy in just a moment.
And actually, just to follow up on Paula's great question and then very thoughtful responses, to the extent that the regional commission is open to an EDC commissioner listening in and being able to take some of the discussion back to these meetings with concrete, like here are some key questions that we're working on, tying in with, let's say, Paula, our strong networks with academia as well as industry, Kaylee and others. I think that's something we would love to support more concretely, and we can follow up through Kate if that's okay.
That's great. You may have just signed yourself up for one of the work sessions. Or someone
Be careful there, right?
But I think it's a group that's really, I appreciate that very much.
Let me just add, in all the what we do, I think I mentioned earlier about Arlington being this, vibrant, inclusive community. There's been a number of conversations that have gone on about, our moral compass and our ethics, right? And what we believe in. And so I would also state that we be very mindful, right, in this community of a number of folks that we have very strong opinions and thoughts about how we invest, how, what companies that we bring here. And I think we have to be very sensitive to those thoughts, right? Realizing that we want businesses to come here, but, the type of businesses and what they represent really does matter in the eyes of a lot of folks. But we do want this to be remain an attractive, at least I do, space for businesses, both small and large, in the long term. We're going to listen to everyone. And okay, we've said that before. Like, we're going to listen to folks as they try to think about coming here to Arlington. But think also about what these companies, what they represent. I only say that because the elephant in the room, y'all, is we can work locally on a number of issues in this bubble here at Arlington, but around us, in my opinion, we have a lot of bad crap going on in our nation and in this world. And we cannot turn the other way and think that does not affect us. It does not affect the people in this community. Y'all have watched the meetings over the years, and as board members, Matt can attest to, we get a lot of concerns that come in. And so when we go out in our communities and we're, whether it's trying to get reelected or we have these town halls, you have to understand that we're not a big monolithic group of folks that think alike. So we are all bringing ideas and issues to the table in our passion and zeal to listen. But I'll just it's some dark times right now in our world. entry. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I didn't, the way I framed it, and I didn't tell you about this as you're coming in, you know, one of our leaders describes the frame of it you could see this because of our workforce as a Detroit moment for Arlington. I think we have so many strengths that I don't actually think the analogy pulls all the way through. But the way on the moral side, the way I described it is, and the way Dr. King describes it is, for Arlington, I think it's ethically, and for our immigrant community, our LGBTQ plus community, for our federal workforce. I know someone who has a friend who was a federal employee who took their own life. I don't think that, I bet there's someone else in this room who might know someone who's having serious mental health trouble because of the change. I described it as a midnight moment for Arlington. There's not a lot of hope right now. I talked to someone about my speech and they said, don't just talk about the bad stuff. We need enthusiasm, positivity, and confidence. So I think pairing that point about how tough it is with, Tim Kaine says, tough times don't last, tough people do. And there are different moments, and I am so confident in Arlington. We have an awesome community that is compassionate, and entrepreneurship thrives here. So I just, hopefully that frame is okay, and to close, and the chair and probably Kate are eager to get us to stop talking. But I mean, if there's other questions, fine. I just wanted to frame that and align with what you were saying, JD, and that it is, let's name it. It's a tough moment, but I got tons of hope based on knowing each of you in the conversation, or many of you in the conversations that we've had.
So just to follow up on that for one quick second. So I lived through that Detroit moment and I worked for the state government. I took a job at state government and 17% unemployment. There are a lot of indicators here that are very similar, unfortunately, to the Detroit moment. And I joke that I'm using a playbook I never thought I was going to ever have to use again.
Yeah.
But in that case, it was government and private sector that stepped up. Most specifically, it was a single individual in the
Don't
private
compare me to
sector.
Mike Duggan, or however you pronounce his name. But
Duggan, yeah.
he is, what he did, the stories are specific enough that he was obsessed and he was relentless, and he is, I don't know, I'm not in the state, but I do think he's an outstanding leader. And I don't say, don't compare me. We will do all we can to be as good as he is. But it's super helpful to hear that the numbers indicators are that challenging, because, COVID was rock bottom economically, and we just kept growing back. This is the reverse. Some struggle not too bad early, but we don't know what we don't know about the challenge that could come from it. So sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it was also the governor, and it was also the guy who's CEO of Quicken Loans.
Yeah.
That stepped up. So it was really three leaders, and then of course like lots of people working on the ground to make that happen.
Well, I think it's important. That's very helpful to hear. And I think both of us, many of us in the room would say, and hopefully it's in a constructive way, in a practical way. I like our chances with Governor Spanberger. And that's not just because Matt's in the room. I like our chances. But I also would say that it is important for us to be a place to focus on where we can agree, and to be a constructive place for business wherein politics is not so one-sided, even though I'm in one side, that we don't recognize the imperative to be a place for innovation and growth.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you. Let's move on to Kate.
All right.
First of all, thank you, JD and Matt, for joining us today. And it's good to see everybody here in the new year, and Happy New Year. We can keep saying that for a little while. For the director's report today, wanted to do a little bit of a level set of where we are and where we're headed. And so slides are way over here. Okay. So we are charged with a lot. And what's been painted in terms of the picture that we're facing in terms of some of our economic challenges, I'll just say that we are a small but mighty group. Some of these are macroeconomic issues that we can just barely scratch the surface of. But just so you know, what we focus on are two big buckets. You know, we are charged with being focused on helping to maintain the county's strong fiscal health. And that is driven by a very healthy tax base. As you all probably know, almost half of our revenues come from that commercial real estate or commercial and residential real estate base. We do focus a lot in that area, but our other charge is to make sure that there's economic opportunity for all. And that's job creation and that's job access. So these are the things that are pretty important to our mission and what we focus on. And for those that don't know much about economic development, back in the day, we used to say, you know, you were chasing smokestacks, and that was all about company attraction and going to get folks to come to your community. But what's really evolved over time is the fact that we are in this phase of economic development 3.0, which is all about really great community building so that we have the talent and the workforce that we can either create businesses from scratch by having this wonderful entrepreneurial system, or we are attracting outsiders to come here simply because we have an outstanding quality of life, we have a great system of education, and we have that talented workforce. So all of those things matter, and that's why our team is as diverse as it is. We don't just have a group that's just focused on that company attraction. We have the whole community development group here under AED. And this is who we are. We're about 50 people, and roughly our budget, you know, ebbs and flows around $10 million. And we've got 5 core divisions. We do have our business investment group, and they're focused on company attraction, but they're also focused on how do we grow and retain the businesses that are already here? And also, how do we create those new businesses? Taking this moment that we've described as massive disruption in, you know, the way we do things with AI and other advances, how do we turn that into opportunity? Well, this team is building a tech ecosystem here in Arlington with several other partners, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's the focus of our business investment group. We also have our convention and visitor services group. This is our tourism arm. And many of you are aware of the amazing work that they do to promote and sell Arlington as a place for people to come and visit, for business travelers to stay. This is a huge and important piece of who we are and what we do. We also have our real estate development team, and they're the ones that have really spearheaded and worked very closely with our friends in planning to look at our development policies and make sure that we're not stopping good investment in real estate from happening. So how do we continue to foster that? We have Biz Launch, which is our outstanding small business team. Many of you also know that that small business team works a lot with, as we think about, you know, who are the strivers and the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. We have a lot of immigrant entrepreneurs. We have a lot of tech entrepreneurs, and our small business team is key in helping them get started and get on the right path. And then finally, we have a whole team of folks that work in our cultural affairs division. They sit at the intersection of how we create great quality of life by having outstanding cultural amenities, and also contribute to placemaking and you know, what makes Arlington great. So this is our robust team, and this is how we get to that complete community development. But we do not do this alone. Economic development is a team sport. This is a list of all the folks we work with, and this includes members of the chamber. This includes George Mason and our other higher education partners. It includes working with the state. So Matt, I'll be calling you soon because we need to make sure that we are lockstep and sync with the EDP and making sure that they're aware of how important it's going to be for them to partner with us in company attraction and company growth here in Northern Virginia. So again, we work with also our bids and partnerships, Alston, National Landing, and Roslyn, and they're core to making sure that our commercial centers, the places where we've got a lot of those jobs, continue to thrive. So we don't do this alone, and we won't do this alone as we move forward. So as we think about, you know, this past year, and it's already been stated, I'm not going to restate all of the things that have happened. It's been unprecedented, and we all know that. in spite of that, we are proud of some successes. And I mentioned this in the December meeting, but, you know, we really have been able to do some things outside of the fact that, you know, we've seen some contraction in the government in terms of the total jobs and what's happening locally. So we've been able to really invest in and elevate our brand as a place where technology and innovation is happening. So this first image up here is DC Startup Week, and that was a huge showing because we actually brought some of that over to Arlington, and we worked with National Landing Bids and others to make that a great success. We also had significant progress in taking what we all know is the biggest challenge we have in many ways, which is we've got an oversupply of office. How do we turn some of that into more productive use? And we saw, I think, 6 conversions this year go through the entitlement process. And that is a direct result of policy changes that here at the local level we were able to do. So that's a win. We still coveted title of the top meeting destinations location. That means people who are trying to get together to have conferences and that sort of thing, they're still coming to Arlington in some ways, and we are one of those top meeting destinations per CVent. We also are investing in placemaking, and we had 2 pilot grants that went out this year to do just that in our commercial corridors. That's something new. That's a pilot project. We're excited to see how that plays out this year, but we see that as a win. And we did continue to have some retention and attraction wins for the year. Technomics, which is in Crystal City, added hundreds of more jobs and expanded their footprint. So we are still doing well in spite of what's in front of us. That said, there's a couple of economic indicators that I think are really important for us all to absorb and kind of make sure that as we think about our actions moving forward, are we really hitting on some of these key points? So first and foremost, the jobs outlook. As many of you know, with the federal workforce contraction and just overall economic uncertainty, our unemployment did go up. So we're hovering, I think, at the end of September at 3.2% versus 2.3% this or that time last year. That's high for us, but it's still below the national average. We know also that the federal jobs here in Arlington definitely took a hit. They're down 5% overall. And total jobs in Arlington are also down 1.6%. So we are seeing a little bit of a contraction here locally. And we also saw some people leaving the workforce. Our civilian labor workforce decreased 1.4%, and that's due to probably some retirements and some people leaving the area as those job opportunities shrunk. When we think about consumer spending and tourism, consumer spending was down 2.8%, and many of you have seen that, particularly in our small businesses and our restaurant community. People, you know, with economic uncertainty are spending less, and consumer confidence has definitely taken a bit of a hit. And tourism probably took the hardest hit this year. Combination of factors, but we really saw, particularly with the shutdown, business travel come to a halt and other things that have really presented some challenges for our community. On the real estate front, our office vacancy remains high at 23.4%, but as was stated, we saw a slight improvement there, and it also didn't increase. So we're going to take that as a win. But we do still have the challenge of we have an oversupply of office. So the thing that I see as opportunity is let's continue to attract investment to turn those properties into new uses that there's a high demand for. And we do see, we've seen a little bit of an uptick in our residential market in terms of the for sale housing that's out there and the number of days on market. But I would say we're still holding steady in terms of our residential base being strong. And then finally, we saw in 2025 or, you know, the previous fiscal year, a slowdown in some construction starts. And that was really due to the higher cost and interest rates going up. So that's going to decline a little bit the number of multifamily units coming on board this year. But what we will see is an uptick there with all of those adaptive reuse projects I mentioned in office. That's going to bring online in calendar year, probably 28, 29, more housing units to the county. So this is just a snapshot, but these are some of the things that we're paying attention to make sure our mission, our focus, and our priorities are directly trying to address some of these things. So what are we going to do in 2026? So we really, and I will give kudos to my predecessor in describing our work this way, that we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we drive demand here in Arlington? How do we drive more jobs and essentially kind of economic activity, but also how do we make sure our real estate, our place making, if you will, is positioned to attract that and accommodate what the market wants to do. So in the bucket of driving demand, innovation and business growth, this is where we see kind of 4 big things happening. I think you've heard, and you're going to hear more in the next quarter about the National Landing Innovation District, which is probably going to get a new name, but this is going to be a public-private partnership where we're going to invest in the things, Paula, that you kind of mentioned. You know, we want to continue to build the tech ecosystems here in Arlington. And that means doing things like programming and creating space for entrepreneurs to talk to one another, to talk to venture capitalists, and actually get investment happening and get new ideas flowing. We also are still doing our International Tech Launchpad. Believe it or not, there are still companies coming to our region, and we want to be sure that if they are here to grow and can succeed, that we give them a pathway to do that. We're going to do some reimagining of our marketing and communications to make sure that when people hear the word Arlington, Virginia, they have happy thoughts, they have positive thoughts, and they see this, continue to see this as a place for investment. We need to do more in terms of getting our brand elevated in that sort of way. And again, Matt, I'm going to call you soon, which is to make sure that at the regional and state level, we can lean on our partnerships and the resources that are there for that company attraction, because we all benefit when there are jobs kind of coming to the entirety of Northern Virginia and the DMV. And so we really do need our partners to help with that. For tourism and visitor spending, many of you know that we are continuing to work to try to find a way for more sustainable and increased funding to do more tourism marketing promotions. So we'll be partnering with our hospitality partners in the chamber to push that really hard in this new year. And many of you might be aware that there's some legislative activity that's going to happen on that front in Richmond. For creativity and entrepreneurship, again, we have an outstanding award-winning small business support team, and we're going to continue to partner. And that means working with folks like SCORE and some of the other folks that, you know, really are the I guess, special sauce of helping that new entrepreneur get started and get on a good glide path for success. And one other kind of bright spot is that we now have this new campus down on 4 Mile Run in South Arlington, where it's going to be a hub of activity. We've got new artist studios, but we're also going to do some programming to help those artists and those creative-minded people become entrepreneurs and see if we can put them on a positive glide path. On the supply side, we're going to continue CMRI, and that means sitting down with many of you in the first quarter and really making sure, do we have a good pulse on what the development community needs to continue to invest and redevelop? So more to come on that, but we are looking for some feedback there so we can really prioritize what's next in terms of those policy changes. We are going to do more urban placemaking. We're going to work with Boston and National Landing and our other partnerships in Roslyn to ensure that where our business community is day to day, that those places are thriving. And we're going to continue to talk about the future of office, which includes the future of what are the industries that can thrive in Arlington? What are they today? What should they be tomorrow? And are we doing everything we can to have a strategy that both attracts and helps grow those that are here today? So we as AED, again, we are a department of the county, and we really look forward to the continued collaboration with you all as the EDC. Our charge is to support you all with agenda development. You have a lot of good ideas, and we help with that to make sure that you are staying informed of what's happening, and for you to also further inform our team on what's happening. So we want to be sure that we can facilitate this collaboration over time. We appreciate your support. And as I said in December, I'm just very thankful for the thought leadership that often happens in this room. And we look forward to, I'm going to say, a more optimistic outlook for the year ahead, because I do think, as Matt said and others have said, Arlington's fundamentals are so strong. We still do have an amazing workforce. We are sitting in a location that is coveted internationally, and we are a place where reinvention, reimagination, and resiliency are words that we're very comfortable with. So thank you all. And I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nick for his remarks.
Yes, thank you, Kate, for your leadership and continued innovation. Appreciate it. Okay, so I want to make sure we get you all out on time this morning. So I want to make a few remarks here, and then I'm going to pass it to a few other folks. Following our December meeting, I've spent the last few weeks reflecting on what we accomplished as a group in 2025 and also where opportunity lies for 2026. Last year, we obviously had some fantastic programming, had a number of great panels, a wide variety of folks that participated from the arts, commercial real estate, small business, tech and innovation. We also had the ability to take what I'll call 2 field trips. One was planned to GMU Fuse, and thank you again, Paula. The other was actually the picture you just put up, Kate, where it was a last minute change, but we ended up at Lover Run Community Center, which was a nice meeting we had, and thank you to AD staff for jumping on that so quickly. We also took action over the summer to reinforce EDC's support for CMRI initiatives, in particular adaptive reuse. I know that Kate touched on it, but just to reiterate, the first few projects were approved by the county board last July, and at last count, at least what I had was I believe it's 6 projects that have been approved, which is very impactful, or will become very impactful. Resulting in about 1.8 million square feet of mostly obsolete office space, which will be turning into, I believe it's just less than 1,200 residential units and over 300 hotel rooms. So increasing the supply, which I think is really important for economic growth. That said, for a number of reasons, including personnel transitions, and updates within the county. Some of our initiatives were slowed down or even halted in some cases. So for today, I would like to focus on a couple areas to prioritize for 2026. The first is related to us as a group, the EDC itself. This is a fantastic group of leaders, citizens, nonprofit directors, entrepreneurs, and more on this commission. But we're volunteering our time. And, we all have day jobs and we're all being pulled in a number of different directions. But the common bond here is the mutual desire to make Arlington a better place to work, to live, to visit. We may not all agree on exactly how we get there, but that brings us all here. And with that, I want to be very respectful going forward of people's time. So in reflecting and talking with certain folks over the last few months, there's been one kind of common piece of feedback that I've received, and I felt to myself too, is sometimes between our 11 meetings throughout the year kind of felt redundant from time to time. So we're being very thoughtful in how we utilize our time. JD mentioned earlier, getting more involvement and folks to participate is really important to me, but I don't just want to have to meet to meet. So we are going to be decreasing from 11 meetings to 9 meetings, not a drastic change, but we feel that by giving you some time back and frankly focusing on a few things that we're going to be talking about more this month and next, I think are going to be really important for the long-term health for this group. Creating as much of a well-oiled machine as possible is really important to me. And what that means is deploying best practices and frankly, creating a playbook that's sustainable for years to come. So a few things I want to touch on with that. One, I'm going to call it EDC 101, or Commissioner Onboarding. Each of us were appointed or accepted into this group. There's obviously the larger county, I guess I'd call it training or onboarding that any commissioner would have to go through. But we want to roll out something a little bit more robust, specifically to EDC. So what we're going to be doing is either on an as needed basis, most likely, let's call it about 3 times a year, we're going to be hosting these training meetings, initiation meetings, whatever you want to call them, where we're going to, and by the way, anybody's welcome, whether it's just new commissioners or folks that just want a refresher. I just think it's a good practice to make sure that the things that are most critical to this group are reinforced. So at a minimum, my hope is that it'll give a strong foundation on the EDC charter, including the mission, vision, and objectives, along with the framework for prosperity. In addition, we'll be reviewing commissioner expectations to include what we as commissioners can expect from collaboration with the AED staff and the county board. So stay tuned for more details on that. The next is personnel, or nom-gov, if you will. In what will be his final year as a 2-term commissioner, this fine man sitting to my right, Brad Mason, will be leading the charge in looking at the commissioner structure itself and taking a holistic approach by improving the makeup of our colleagues here and identifying future commissioners by studying things like skills gaps, identifying specific occupations, companies, and nonprofits that may be either overrepresented or not represented. So, Paula, you asked earlier about AI. I want to take a collaborative approach where if we identify certain areas, do we need a AI thought leader, someone who's an industry expert or leader in this community? That's certainly somebody that or a role that we need to be looking at. As always, we'll continue to evaluate any and all applications as they arrive. We are always getting a wide variety of very impressive resumes and folks that are looking to make an impact, and hopefully that continues. We'll attempt to utilize best practices the way a nonprofit or a for-profit board would function by taking action that will set up the group for long-term success and hopefully minimize pitfalls. You'll be hearing from Brad in a couple minutes about this, and we look forward to making progress and again, having this playbook in place so that when his term expires next year, he'll be able to seamlessly pass it on to the next person stepping in. The second is engagement and programming. So to increase our involvement, participation, and voice in the Arlington community. Commissioner Meredith Sumter will be leading our group in identifying key working groups, studies, events, and other opportunities for us to get involved in. She'll be working with all of us on helping to continue to put together panels over the course of the year. And Meredith, I don't want to steal your thunder. I know you've been working hard on this, but I'll turn it over to you in just a couple minutes. In summary, I value everybody's time and dedication and understand how precious your time is given the various directions we're all pulled in. As it relates to the commission and you as fellow commissioners and to the AED staff, my hope is to make our time together this year as efficient and impactful as possible. The second priority is one that we hear about probably in every meeting, but I'm going to call it more of a revived focus or a regrouping on the commercial vacancy working group. We do have to be a little bit more thoughtful on how it's structured, but last year we did kind of take a pause. Things were still being pushed forward, of course, between Mark and the team at AED for CMRI. The bottom line is there's not a silver bullet that's going to solve the continued issues, but by staying on the ball and always thinking creatively and proactively about ways to make Arlington a better place to do business is consistently of significant importance. As office continue to fall, which is still happening, by the way, tax revenues from the commercial sector will continue to decrease, which will put excess strain on those services that we all benefit here from the county. I'm not going to replay everything we put up a couple of years ago, but when you start to look at where the money is coming in and or where it's not, it has drastic impacts on all of us. I'll try to make an analogy here. Work with me. We all know how miserable commuting on 66 can be. I view our role here in the EDC as the equivalent of the company hired to expand the highway, hypothetically, if you were adding a lane in each direction. It'll be painful during construction because there will be unforeseen challenges, and it may take longer to complete than initially mapped out. But when the new lanes open, it'll be pretty clear that it was worth the work. So yes, there'll still be flat tires, accidents, and sometimes folks will be delayed in getting to their destination. but the addition of that lane will make it easier for those travelers to get from point A to point B. And I'm hopeful that this year, through our CMRI and commercial vacancy working group efforts, we can help improve. In closing, my focus and hope is not only to improve existing programs like adaptive reuse, but to arm the board and staff with ideas supported by data to initiate new or pilot programs, big and small, to make incremental improvement. We need to keep the end user in mind, whether that be the C-suite of a company considering Arlington for a new office location, an investment firm or a family office considering their first commercial investment in Arlington, the new retailer considering opening his or her new first coffee shop, or the management team of a brand new hotel or apartment building. We'll be working with Mark and the team to continue to push in 2026 on CMRI initiatives. And with our group of commissioners and local real estate community at large, I'm very confident that we'll be able to present Matt and JD and others at the board with well thought out concepts and suggestions. We've got a great group of minds here in this room, and we're all fortunate to do business and reside in such a great place like Arlington. But in these times, we need to continue to proactively push across the board to help this community continue to be a welcome place for all types of businesses, residents, visitors, and do what we can to stay ahead of the competition. So thank you for your time this morning, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Meredith, followed by Brad.
All right. Thank you. All right, everyone. I will try to keep this quick with an eye on the clock. So the executive committee consulted with AED staff and others on ways that we as commissioners can both be activated, but also efficiently focused in contributing the ways that are material to our mission. So I will briefly outline the three main recommendations that came from this process. All of this will be shared with you electronically ahead of our February meeting. So first, what we're going to look to do is to deepen EDC contributions. Thank you to our county board representatives. Thank you. First, we're going to deepen, look for ways to deepen EDC contributions to our county advisory groups. We have a rich tapestry, as you know, of advisory groups across the county, which provide input to our county board and represent our community. We already have strong representation on transportation with Evan, climate with Paula, regional workforce with Kate, as well as, oh, Matt, we're going to miss you, but we're so excited for you. Comprehensive planning with Matt Weinstein, whom we will be looking to never replace, but to take on the mission that he has so ably progressed for the EDC. So going forward, what we'd like to do is to prioritize EDC input into these county advisory groups. What this means is that rather than have our input be at the bottom of the agenda, we're going to move it to the top of the agenda and encourage that when our volunteers on these commissions are providing pre-read material, we'd love for you to sort of engage with that material ahead of time and then show up ready to engage, or ready to discuss and provide input. Also, if you're interested in volunteering for one of the CAGs, county advisory groups that we've mentioned, or there are other county advisory groups that could be material to our work, for example, in arts and in housing. That's something that we're interested in hearing your interest about too. So from our perspective, what we're going to do is we're going to look to recruit interested commissioners to serve on relevant county advisory groups or be present at chamber-supported initiatives. And the aim is to really match your skills, your interests, and your schedule, your ability to give of time to specific county advisory group and EDC needs. So if you're interested in this kind of service, please ping me and Brad and Nick. Rules allow up to 2 EDC members to be present at any one of these CAGs or community events. So we'll be mindful of that. Second, we would love to have you as commissioners more present in our community. So our AED staff, they're going to, Caitlin and Kate will identify for us, every month when we come to these meetings and we have a long list of events across the county that the AED is flagging for us. What the executive committee is asking AED to do is to identify the top 2 to 3 a month. And then we will flag that to you as commissioners. And I'll be looking for volunteers every meeting who would be interested in covering these priority events. It may not be 100% hit, but we're going to try for that. And part of this is you would be an ambassador out into the community, listening, learning, bringing what you're learning back into our meetings. So as we come in and meet over the nine meetings that we have for this year, we will create space for you as a commissioner to share. This is what I learned. Here are some opportunities. Here are some challenges that will be helpful to our commission as we're advising our county board, but also would be helpful for Kate and Caitlin and the AED staff as they are also taking our input into consideration as they advance their work. Third, sharpening our advocacy. So we have 2 planned testimonies this year. There's the county board budget work session in April, and then there's the COP work session in July focused on economic development input. We will contribute to those, but we'll also look to target 2 additional high-value moments. One will be a July letter that outlines the EDC's legislative priorities. We've done this in 2025. We'd like to do this again with intentional input and for 2026. We'll also reserve space for timely testimony or a position paper on strategic areas like CMRI or supporting the broader business community. So as this other sort of material topics come to our attention as a commission, we want to reserve time and space for commissioners to be able to weigh in as a body. So with these adjustments, the goal is to channel our energy and expertise in material areas and to ensure that we're contributing value to Arlington's economic development in line with our mission and role in helping to advise the county board. So would love to hear your thoughts. We're going to send materials and links outlining these recommendations and ways to get involved ahead of February's meeting, and we'll preserve time at that meeting to take your input, your questions, and see who'd like to volunteer. Thank you so much. And I'll turn over to Brad.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you, Meredith. I have to say I've been pretty energized by some of the conversation today, especially Nick just a few moments ago informing everybody that 66 is about to be expanded. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was unaware, by the way. Yeah, I've been, as many of you know, I've been a longstanding member of the commission and of the executive committee. I'm rolling into my last year of term. And I've been tasked with, or perhaps voluntold by Nick, to really sort of focus on everything related to commission personnel. I think JD mentioned earlier that we do have some vacancies right now. I think 22 members are active as of right now. And we've got a number that will be rolling off naturally over the coming months. So recruitment and retention are going to be a big focus for 2026. So as part of that, we are going to be kind of creating a framework or maybe refining the current process by which we identify, recruit, and then onboard new members. Part of that also will be being a little more focused in the areas of expertise or the areas of industry that we really want representation from. So how do we do that? And I think we're working on a concept of creating sort of a matrix of all of the individual capabilities of the current commission members. So this could be what industry they're from, their other background, hobbies, other interests, skill set. So we can sort of align better our efforts for recruitment in areas that we think that we are underrepresented, or if there are areas of focus that we want to do for the EDC in the coming years, where do we think we want additional representation to help support that focus. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Nick, but happy to help.
Thank you, Brad and Meredith, for stepping up, both critical for our success. All right, we're almost there. I know there's been a lot today, a lot of great discussion. Is there any new business? Okay, well, Matt, I just want to say a couple things. Number one, congratulations. And I'll turn it over to you in a second, but I just did want to say that I've had the pleasure of working with Matt here, but also in another organization in the past few years. Great contributor, always very thoughtful in his approach, obviously involved in just about everything, and was critical to what we put out as part of the commercial vacancy working group back in 2024. So thank you, Matt, for your service. We're going to miss you, but hopefully you won't forget about us. So we look forward to seeing you soon, please.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks, JD, for the kind words. Last week, Governor-elect Spanberger appointed me to be Deputy Secretary of Administration. And that role is, the way I think about it, the Secretary of Administration, it's in the governor's office. It's basically the county manager of the state. So we, Department of Elections, which is kind of like an add-on, but that's a lot of my background, but deal with the state's IT agency, the state's HR agency, the state agency that deals with real estate, procurement, permitting, building code, all of that. And then the compensation board, which funds all the constitutional officers. So I'll be the deputy for that secretariat. So I'll be overseeing a lot of that day to day. I'll be in Richmond Monday through Friday and back here on the weekends. So I'm not departing as an Arlingtonian. I'll be back on the weekends. And I just want to thank you all. Obviously I wouldn't have had this opportunity, but for my experiences in Arlington. And this is a very important one. Learned a lot from you all, and I joke with Bill, I feel like I'm the most popular guy in the room now. People will be reaching out to me, I'm sure, but I will be reaching out to you as well throughout the process. So I'll be in Richmond Monday through Friday, and I'll be back here on the weekends, and I'll be around.
Congratulations and thank you. Okay, well, thank you for everybody's time today. We've got a couple minutes left, so appreciate it. Yes.